I knew Michael. Me and Michael used to run about together. He was only a year younger than me. I had brains to burn, Michael. I saw him that night. He was pure black. It was cruel.
An emotional John Leonard recalling the night his brother was killed. Michael was just 24 years old when he was shot dead by the Royal Ulster Constabulary on the 17th of May 1973 on the border between Fermanagh and Donegal. His only crime was that he was driving whilst disqualified. At the time, the RUC claimed that he had refused to stop at a checkpoint. Michael was just 200 yards from the border when he was shot in the back and killed. Michael's brother John believes that he could have lived, but that he was left to bleed out on the side of the road.
But the worst part about it, my father and mother was out there in Timor, and they didn't know till 7:30. This happened at 5:20. They didn't know till 7:30. It was only about 4 mile away. The priest came in, and wee Father McKenna was here at the time, and wee Father McKenna told me nobody came and told him he would have lifted Michael. They let Michael bleed out on the roadside, which was the worst part of it. It was nearly 2 hours before he got in his skin. His skin was black. He was bled out. Michael could have lived. Father McKenna told me if anybody would have told him, nobody would have stopped the priest. He would have lifted him and took him. It was almost 2 hours. In his skin, it's only 20 mile away.
And who found him, John, on the roadside?
They wouldn't let nobody stop. You see, there was a few people stopped that knew, locals, but they were too afraid of the police. They all went on, but I wished I'd have been, I'll tell you the truth, I wished I'd have been with Michael. Yeah.
Michael's other brother Morris says to this day he wonders why.
Say it was about 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, and he just said, "Your brother's been shot on the border and he's dead." He was straight out with it.
And you must have been absolutely...
I remember keep saying to him, "Are you sure he's dead?" Because you hear people being shot but not dead. I remember keeping saying that to him. So then we had a small child. So we got child up, and me and the wife, and we headed to Donegal here. So that was it. Yeah. My mother was in a bad way on the back street, naturally. So.
What age were you? Were you older or younger than Michael?
I was older, yeah. I was, 3 years older, yeah.
Has it kind of stayed with you all those years, what happened that night?
Oh, God, yeah. It stays with you, yeah. Yeah, and you think of all these things, ifs, and if this had been and if that had been, you wonder... And you wonder why sometimes.
An anniversary mass for Michael took place over the weekend in St Mary's Church in Pettigo. During the homily, campaigner priest and Michael's cousin, Father Joe McVeigh, read a statement from Michael's sister Carmel.
I will never forget seeing him in the morgue in the Aaron Hospital in Enniskillen. His body was pure black. Michael bled to death. After Michael's death, we all got on with our lives. When Daddy died years later, Mommy came to live with me for some time in Dublin. It was only then that I realised that she never got over Michael's cruel death. She would talk about Michael every day. Mommy died broken-hearted.
In the 50 years that followed Michael's death, Father McVeigh says that the Irish government has only in recent times taken an interest in the case.
Thankfully, Micheál Martin met us there in February, met the family, and was very sympathetic and said he promised to do whatever he could to get a new inquest, which is what we're aiming for. That's our goal, because the first inquest in 1973, 5 months after Michael was killed, was a farce, the first inquest. And I attended it. It was just so useless, really, from a point of view of getting any information about what happened, that we came away very disgusted, very disappointed. But we didn't know how to go about a campaign, or we didn't know at that time. But we were really pleased to get this invitation from Micheál Martin to talk to him after 50 years. And as you said at the beginning, it's a long, long time. A lot has happened. But we're determined at this stage to pursue the campaign and pursue this case in order to get truth, the truth about what happened, to oppose the lies of the British services, British forces here, who put out the lies.
How do you feel, Father, on a personal level, 50 years on and 50 years of campaigning on behalf of the Leonard family and for Michael? Well, I feel more hopeful now than I did for many years. I've been campaigning for other cases. Personally, I am more hopeful. I am encouraged by what I hear around me. I am very much encouraged by Micheál Martin's interest in the case. I think, hopefully, this will lead to a whole new stage in our campaign. It's giving me hope at this point in time.
We did not see you close your eyes. We did not see you die. All we knew was that you were gone, without a last goodbye.
The Leonard family will come home tonight with strength and hope that you have given them with your presence here. They need it now just as they did half a century ago, but they will prevail once more despite the cover-up and the intransigence that was rolled out as Michael lay on the ground and dying. I believe, some people may call me foolhardy, but I believe that the love of the Leonard family and the support that they have from you is far more powerful than anything that the British state can throw at us. The British state is running scared, and it's running scared because of the indomitable spirit of families like Michael Leonard's.
The Mass was followed by a special event to remember Michael. Kieran McCart is founder and manager of the charity Paper Trail, which advocates on behalf of victims and survivors of the conflict in Northern Ireland. One of the key aims of the charity's work is to help families access information buried in public records. While researching in London, Kieran discovered new evidence which he says proves that the story told at the inquest in 1973 doesn't add up.
Well, the first tranche of new evidence that he discovered was over in the National Archives in London, around about 2017, 2018. I went back for some more. I had known Father Joe McVeigh, Michael's cousin. I'd seen him at various events, and I knew him by repute as well. And I'd also known that he had written about Michael. I didn't know the family at that stage. So I contacted Father Joe and said to him that I had found new information, new evidence over in London that proved that it wasn't an accidental shot that had killed Michael, that the RUC had fired 2 shots at him deliberately, chased after him, and then shot him again before he reached the sanctuary of the border and the safety of his home in Donegal.
And what, from your experience working with other families, what is unique about this particular case of Michael Leonard?
What remains unique for me is that it is so open an admission in the texts that proves that the RUC deliberately targeted and executed Michael before he reached the border. What the police told the family, what the police told the media, and then what the police then informed the coroner at the field inquest is completely and utterly at odds with the record within the British Army and the RUC files at the time. So that means from the moment and hour that Michael perished, that the RUC and the British Army covered up. And it covered up not only from unit level on the ground, but that then spread out to the station and upwards as far as NOC headquarters and British Army headquarters.
And in terms of that inquest many years ago, those who were there that night weren't even at the inquest.
No, the inquest was so botched and failed because the RUC officers who murdered Michael that night weren't even in attendance. They had a sergeant there who read out their statements, and then that sergeant wasn't even able to be interrogated by Michael's family's solicitor, Pat Fahy. So no questions were even able to be asked of the sergeant. The family knew then and there, as did Father Joe and the solicitor, that it was a failed investigation and that the mix was in and the cover-up was instigated from there on in.
Fast forward to 50 years later, how confident are you that the family will get a fresh inquest?
I'm very confident in the strength and the resilience of the family because they're driven by love of Michael. What we have a great fear of at the minute is the fact that the British government is trying to bring in a legacy bill, which is designed for no other reason except to bury Britain's war crimes in Ireland and protect its killers, even its killers in uniform, like those RUC officers that murdered Michael on that lowly road just before the border.
And do you feel, or are you hopeful that a fresh inquest will be sanctioned before that legacy bill stops it?
Michael's family is one of many families that have been instructed to go to the Attorney General and seek a new inquest. And unfortunately, they're one of many families that the clock is ticking. And the British government, we now know, is trying to bring this draconian power, this legacy bill in as quickly as possible so it can pull the shutters down on hundreds of families that and make sure that they do not have equal access to due process of the law.
Is the fact that Taoiseach Micheál Martin getting behind the campaign, that must be a good thing in terms of the campaign?
The family welcomed the meeting with Taoiseach and he gave us a very sympathetic ear. He was well over the brief and knew Michael's story well. He took time out of a very busy schedule to listen to us and listen to the family and hear Michael's story. And the family thought it was a very positive meeting. It was the furthest that they have ever gotten with the Irish government so that they could tell Michael's story. And they left feeling very positive. But all the while they are very wary of what the British government is wanting to do with its perfidious legacy bill.
The Leonard family have been through untold tragedy. Another sibling, James, was 14 when he died in a bicycle accident, while John Leonard lost a son some years after his brother's killing. John says his parents went to their graves without ever getting justice.
I don't know. But my father and my mother never got over it. No, she died. I mean, the inquest was a farce, you know that. You've probably seen all this, you know. Yeah. It's only that man found out all the right thing over in London in the army base. He found the whole, it was all different. Yeah.
I know it's really hard for you to talk about it, John. Your mother and father, they've been gone a long time now, and they went without, getting justice for Michael.
Now, when the police give in to that, yeah, it'd been all different, wouldn't it? I mean, they're gone, and then I lost a wee fella 9 years after, myself, got drowned in the river, yeah. Yeah, but he was only 3 years old. Yeah, Gareth lifted him over the wire, and I was at home. I was away work. I drive diggers, that's my. And it was a Saturday it happened, and I was at home the same day, working up doing draining in the land, only 500 yards away. They come running for me. My oldest fella, Michael, he was only about 6 at the time. But I went down and I knew it was too late. I lifted him. Shane carried him in the river. I knew it was all over.
Your family has been through so much tragedy. How do you
My mother,
do you cope?
they lost. Our oldest fellow was killed of a bicycle, James. Yeah, I was with him the same day. Well, I wasn't with him. I was up the road. We were taking up. He couldn't ride a bike, and he took my mother's bike. You see, he went down the hill after the cow broke away, and he went down the hill after the cow, and I heard him. Fell off the bike. But if it had been now, he wouldn't have died. It was Ballyshannon that time, you see, and there was his hip got broken. They set it, but then they had to break it again, and he died in the operating room. He was only 14 at the time. Poor Michael, he might well have been in South Africa. Nobody's done nothing for Michael. Lord save us, I mean, my father should have been told. Somebody should have come out and told him. I mean, everybody, anything happens, you know that yourself. You do.
How did word eventually get back to your parents that night?
Oh, the priest and the sergeant came out at 7:30 that night. Paul was only my younger brother. He was only 12, you see. Paul will remember that. I wasn't there. We were on our way home. Yeah.
What would you like to see happen now, John, in terms of getting justice?
I'd like to see a new inquest anyway, and sure, they never was named or nothing. Sure, the whole thing was rubbish. Probably dead now, I don't know, but even so,
When you talk about it now, John, you said it doesn't feel like 50 years ago, but obviously this...
No, it does not. 50 years. I mean, 50 years is a long time, isn't it? I used to be Michael. I knew Michael Barner. I knew him. Morris was away. Morris left school at 14 and was away to work in Letterkenny. I was at home a long time before I went to England, and then I went to work for Morris then. Morris was in England first, then he came back to Bray or Greystones to start to build him and another fella, build houses. That's why I was up there then. I was driving a digger for him. But I knew Michael. Me and Michael used to run about together. He was only a year younger than me. I had brains to burn, Michael. That was cruel, wasn't it? Shot in the back for a driving offence. You wouldn't do it to a dog, would you?
Catherine Gaffney, Ocean FM News.